All right, so in our last video, we talked about adding numbers using a number line. And at first, that might be helpful to kind of visualize what you're doing, but eventually we should be moving away from using a number line and using more of an algorithm or rules to help us more efficiently, more quickly add positive and negative numbers together. And so some of the rules are, if you're adding two positive numbers together, we add as usual, and our answer is positive. We take a positive number, we add another positive number, we just get a bigger positive number. Or if we have two negative numbers and we're adding them, then we add the two absolute values together. We add the two numbers together, and then our answer is just a bigger negative. So for example, if you look at 1C, if I have a -4 plus a -3, you notice that they're both negatives. I can take 4 plus 3, which is 7, and then my answer is just negative. I have a -4, I'm getting more negative, so I should be at -7. Okay? Um, so two negative numbers, add them together, and our answer is just negative. Two positive numbers, we add them together, and our answer is positive. So what happens if we have a positive number and a negative number? Well, the easiest way to do it is you subtract the smaller number from the bigger number. You subtract the smaller absolute value from the greater absolute value. And then, if your bigger number is positive, your answer is going to be positive. If your bigger number is negative, then your answer is going to be negative. So let me show you. If you look at example number 1a, I have -4 plus 9. You notice that one is negative and one is positive. If I do that, I can take my bigger number, 9, and subtract 4 from it, and I get 5. And since my bigger number is positive, then my answer is just going to be a positive 5. Or if you look at b, I have 3 plus a -5. One's positive, one's negative. If I take the bigger number, 5, and subtract the smaller number, 3, 5 minus 3 is 2. But my bigger number was negative, so I know that my answer is going to be negative, or -2. If they're opposite signs, subtract them and keep the sign of the bigger number. If we're adding 0, well then our answer is just going to be the same. Let's do some problems. Without a number line, can you add these numbers together? So on example number 2a, I have -12 plus a -7. I notice that they're both negative. So if they're both negative, I'm going to add them together. 12 plus 7 is 19, but then I'm going to keep the negative sign. I have -12 and I'm adding a more negative. So I'm going to get more negative. I'm going to get a bigger negative number, or -19. Look at B. I have a -1.4 plus an 8.5. One's negative, one's positive. Since they're opposite, we're going to take the larger number, 8.5, and subtract the smaller number, 1.4. I ended up getting 7.1. And since the bigger number was positive, my answer is going to be a positive. So positive 7.1 would be my answer on that one. All right, what about C? I have -36 plus 21. One's negative, one's positive. That means I want to find this difference, subtract. I'm going to take the bigger number and subtract the smaller number. So 36 minus 21 is 15, but my bigger number was negative, so my answer is going to be negative. So -36 plus 21 is really -15. What about D? If I have 1.5 plus a -1.5, one's positive, one's negative. Since they're opposite, I'm going to subtract. So 1.5 minus 1.5 is 0, and 0 doesn't really have a sign. It's neither positive nor negative, so my answer would just be 0 on that one. All right, what about E? I have -7/8 plus 0. Well, you could try to get a common denominator because we're adding fractions, or you can think about, we have -7/8 and we're adding nothing. So if we add nothing to -7/8, aren't we still just at -7/8? That was kind of easy, -7/8. All right, what about F? F has us doing 2/3 plus a -5/8. Now you notice we're adding fractions. That should be a red flag that anytime we're adding fractions, we need to make sure that we have a common denominator so we can more easily add our pieces or subtract our pieces together. So what would be the common denominator between 3 and 8? It looks like 24, right? So I'm going to multiply the first fraction, numerator and denominator, by a factor of 8, and the second fraction by a factor of 3. I ended up getting 16 plus a -15. 16 over 24, excuse me, plus a -15 over 24. And now that I have common denominators, I can more easily add these numbers together. Now, I have 16, that's positive 16 over 24, and a negative 15 over 24. They're opposite signs, so I want to subtract. So 16 minus 15 is 1, and the bigger number is positive. 16 over 24 is positive, so my answer is really going to be positive 1 over 24. Keeping my common denominator and just adding or subtracting the numerators using my rules. So 16 24ths plus a negative 15 24ths is positive 1 over 24. Making sure you get those common denominators. Make sure you practice all different types of adding positive and negative numbers together. We're going to be using this for the rest of the class and every single chapter and section that we do. So it's really important that you have a good hang of it without a calculator and without a number line. So making sure you practice using those rules.